today I'm going to present my part, which is Introduction. Our research topic is to enhance students' vocabulary and pronunciation through Parrot technique. So, why we focus on vocabulary and pronunciation? Having an effective and proficient English is the aim for every student in Malaysia. In order to become a proficient users of a language, learners need to have all these 4 language skills, which are reading skills, writing skills, listening skills, and speaking skills. According to Nation, learners need to have an average of 6,000 to 9,000 words families in order to become a proficient English user in both spoken and written English. This shows that to become a proficient English users, having an adequate amount of vocabulary is important. Besides, pronunciation is one of the important skills that should be paid attention. It is because the ability to pronounce words clearly can help avoid misunderstanding and also can boost learners' confidence in using and speaking English. Concerning this matter, we decided to focus on both vocabulary and pronunciation as it will improve all the language skills altogether, as language skills is indeed interwoven and related to one another. Apart from that, students in Malaysia face problems in improving English. This is due to limited vocabulary and incompetent pronunciation, thus lowers student performance in using English. This leads to students to have little or no confidence to use and speak English. Due to this, we decided to implement research by Azkarai and Oliver in 2016, which they use repetition to improve English in ESL and EFL learners. How? Thus we created Parrot technique. What is Parrot technique? Parrot technique is a technique to improve students' vocabulary and pronunciation based on repetition using songs and movies. Regarding this, we had concluded 3 research questions as suggested in the study. First, to what extent does the Parrot technique help in enhancing students' vocabulary and pronunciation in English? 2. How does Parrot technique can develop and increase students' confidence in using English? 3. What is the level of students' proficiency in vocabulary and pronunciation before and after using Parrot technique? So, the objective of our research proposal are to investigate the effectiveness of using Parrot technique to help enhance students' vocabulary and pronunciation. 2. To study whether Parrot technique can develop and increase students' confidence in using English. And 3. To improve the level of students' proficiency in vocabulary and pronunciation after using Parrot technique. So, my friend will present more in order to have a better understanding on literature review regarding Parrot technique and how this technique works to help learners to enhance vocabulary and pronunciation using Parrot technique. So, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Noelle and I will be explaining to you about chapter 2. In this chapter, we did our literature review in which we discuss journals, books or articles that are related to the topic of our research, which is enhancing vocabulary and pronunciation through Parrot technique. Since Parrot technique incorporates repetition strategy, I will explain to you about repetition. What is repetition? According to Boyokbay, repetition is a form of a corrective feedback that allows learner to notice the error and correct the error with the help of the teacher. Boyokbay also mentions in her study that repetition helps students in repairing their own mistakes when students are able to repair their own mistakes, it increases their ability to think critically. Other than that, repetition can also be implemented in classroom by teachers as a form of implicit correction technique that has a high possibility to succeed. Okay, so now that we've talked about repetition in classroom, let's talk about vocabulary and pronunciation performance among students. According to Darussaid Subramaniam, they observed 72 essays written by secondary school students, and what they found is that these students have a relatively weak vocabulary. And according to Shak, Lee, and Stephen, they consider English pronunciation as hard. This is because of the difference between the target language, which is English, and our mother tongue, which is the Malay language. And because of these issues, students being weak in vocabulary and English pronunciation being hard for students, researchers urge teachers to play their role in order to help students to improve their vocabulary and pronunciation by implementing strategies such as the repetition strategy in classroom in order to help them improve. So now let's have a look to what researchers have to say when repetition is used to teach vocabulary and pronunciation. According to Gu, he claims that repetition strategies are important, especially in the early stages of learning vocabulary. And according to Buyuk Bey, she mentions that when the focus of learning is vocabulary and pronunciation, repetition should be used as a form of feedback. So based on these statements, we believe that repetition is very useful to be used in classroom. So now I will pass this to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Farah and today I'm going to present about intervention and our theoretical perspective on the intervention. So first of all, our intervention is called the Parrot technique. What is Parrot technique exactly? Parrot technique is a method in learning English effectively. This technique is based on Albert Bandura theory of social learning. I will talk about theories of social learning later. So first we focus on the Parrot technique and what inside it. Parrot technique has 4 fundamentals which are observation, attention, reproduction and motivation. This fundamental will be experienced by the learners by phases. So first phase, the student will go through the phase of observation. In this phase, the student will learn by observing. For example, they will watch a video that is, of course, prepared by the teacher. Next, the student will go through the phase of retention. In this phase, they will repeat the video in order to learn. And the next phase is reproduction. Reproduction is where the student will reproduce the word that they have learned by imitating. Lastly is the motivation. So motivation is needed for the student to be able to learn effectively. Therefore, we believe that intrinsic and intrinsic motivation will be really helpful to the student. This is important as they need to retain the process of learning. Next is theoretical perspective on Parrot technique. So in Parrot technique, we base this technique on theory of social learning and also behaviorism. So in theory of social learning, Albert Bandura emphasized that people can learn using observation. It is known as observational learning. So by observing people, we can actually learn and adapt with the desirable behavior using the imitation. So actually, the person that we observe, it is called influential model. So when we observe them, if their experiences are positive, we will assimilate and imitate that behavior. If it's negative experience, then we will eradicate it. And next is behaviorism. So in behaviorism theory proves that reinforcement is the most important key in learning. So positive and negative reinforcement actually will influence the result of our behavior. So we believe that external or internal rewards will give the learners a positive feeling, which lead to reinforcement. So in Parrot technique, we emphasize the reinforcement because then they will need to repeat what they have learned in order to become an effective learners. That is all. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nora Atika binti Muhammad Sharahuddin. I will talk about methodology. So we have decided to implement Lewin's model in this research. This is because Lewin's model provides a systematic approach in solving our problems. Okay, the spiral steps of Lewin's model are clear and concise, which makes it very suitable to what we have visioned in our research. So there are 4 steps involved in Lewin's model, which are planning, taking actions, observing, and also reflecting. I will only discuss about planning and taking actions because the next presenter will be talking about observing and also reflecting. Alright, in planning stage, there are 3 things that we have to consider, which are problem statement, strategy, and also sampling. In this research, we pick Class 4S from SMK Kelana to become the respondents of this research. There are about 25 students and they are ideal participants because the students have low performance in English examination. There are only 5 students who can be considered as proficient learners in English. The other students mostly scored C, and there are also 6 students who did not pass the examination. They use Bahasa Melayu to communicate in English class, and we can see that they are not confident in using English. They are afraid if they mispronounce the words and they will be humiliated by their friends. The situation has led the students to become timid and afraid to try to speak in English. Therefore, the students use their mother tongue language even though they are in English class. So, the strategy will be the Parrot technique. Parrot technique is created to help students to improve their performance in English, focusing on 2 main aspects, which are vocabulary and pronunciation. It is made to attract students to learn English in an interactive way. Parrot technique will be conducted every week for 1 period of English class, which is 30 minutes. We believe that 30 minutes is the ideal duration for students to learn effectively. Moving on to another step, which is taking actions. What we are doing right now is we are enhancing students' vocabulary and pronunciation through Parrot technique. This Parrot technique will allow students to learn English through songs and a movie scene throughout the 14 weeks. For the first week, the students will have a pre-test, and then from week 2 until week 7, the students, the Parrot technique will be focusing on more on vocabulary and pronunciation through 2 songs. They will also have a song presentation in week 7. Then from week 8 until week 13, they will learn about vocabulary and pronunciation through a movie scene from The Odd Life of Timothy Green. And then they will also have a role play presentation in week 12 and week 13. Alright, lastly, in week 14, the students will have a post-test. So, checklist and journal will also be used as a formative assessment throughout the 14 weeks. So, if you are wondering what is checklist, what is journal, what is pre-test and post-test, let's have Noelle explain it for us later.
Okay, now I'm going to continue what Ika had presented. So since the teacher is implementing Lewin's model, observing will be the third step. So the teacher will apply 4 types of instruments which will be used to observe students' performance. The first instrument is pre-test, second one is checklist, the third one is journal, and lastly post-test. So to sum it up, for the pre-test, the teacher will do it before implementing the Parrot technique to 25 students from the 4S class. There will be 2 parts which are for vocabulary and also pronunciation. As for the vocab, there will be a table which has 2 columns such as feeling and actions, and they need to write as many words as they think of that are related to the particular columns. As for the pronunciation pre-test, the student will have to read a paragraph from their Form 4 short story. They will be tested on their pronunciation while reading the short story. So then both of these elements, vocabulary and pronunciation, will be graded using a checklist. The teacher will observe students' performance in vocabulary and pronunciation through a checklist. So the checklist will be varied in mastery, master without help, master with help, and also not mastered. In order to grade it, the student will have to encounter a few stages of difficulty in imitation and also repetition. They will watch a video, figure out script and recreate the scene, and then the teacher will evaluate their role play by focusing the students' pronunciation. So the third instrument is journal. Journal will be used to observe students' performance so that the teacher will know their mastery level. The teacher will provide a book for everyone and students can design them by their own. It will engage students' creativity as it acts like a diary to them. The journal will be about the new vocabulary that they have discovered. The teacher also will leave feedback from time to time to observe their students' progression. And lastly, the post-test will determine overall performance of the student. They will have this test on week 14. The teacher will use the same worksheet as pre-test, so their performance on vocabulary and pronunciation can be compared before and after applying the Parrot technique. Next, I'm going to present about teachers' journal writing. So we divided this journal into 3 parts, which are before, during, and also after doing the research. In before the research, we stated things we do before starting this study, such as appointed a leader, find out research topic, and also research background. We also stated the things that we feel will be a challenge in doing this research. Meanwhile, for the during the research part, we stated what we had discovered along the way in finishing this research. We significantly sharpened our critical thinking skills during this research. We also stated the main constraints in conducting this study. And lastly, for after research part, we centered this reflection with our own personal opinion about the fact of assessing and being assessed. So that's all from me. Thank you.